Welcome to NDG Introduction to Linux Administration 1, it's Chapter 11, Managing Processes. Thought I'd start out here with a little bit of humor, courtesy of XKCD. So this man has an issue with not having the software. We're going to look at how to manage the software part of it and at the process level. Poor guy is just hoping like hell that someone will be able to support his desire to have a USB upload to his brain. Linux isn't there yet, but maybe you guys can get there. So processes are the way that programs get executed. So sometimes groups of programs are required to run an application, something like an Office suite or a web browser. In this case, we're showing how the process interacts with the hardware. So it's got to go through the kernel, which we've talked about a little bit. And the kernel will then allocate the hardware resources necessary to be able to execute the program. So we already know that running programs are called processes from that. The PS command is our ticket to the inner workings of Linux. In this case, PS is short for process, and the E shows every process, and the F shows full details. So we'll just look at this one first. And you can see that there's a lot of processes here that were started by root. The two processes that our user, sysadmin, started are right here. The shell, which, yeah, we're in the shell. That's how we're executing these commands. And then it shows the PS command that we executed. So you'll notice that there's several columns. This first one being the user who's executing the process. So as sysadmin, we're not going to be able to stop any processes that the root user started. But if we can raise our privilege level to that of root, then we can manipulate all of the processes that are on here. The way we identify the process that we want to manipulate is with the process ID, this PID. And that's right there in that column. The time that, or the amount of time that's, or the amount of processor time that was used, doesn't look like we got a lot of processor time being used there, but it could be because this is a VM. And then the command that was executed. In this case, with the full details, we get to see not just the command, but all the options that were used. So if we just put in the normal PS with no options, it just gives us processes that our user has executed, and the command, you can see it doesn't give the details about the options. In this case, it does. It might. You think it might, but if I did PS-E, it you can see that it doesn't get the full details of the option that was put in there. So another useful version of the PS command is PS-AUX, and that'll also show all the details. And in this case, it'll also show how much CPU it's using, how much memory it's using. This is a really useful incantation of the PS command. Moving on. So we can run these processes in the foreground, which means that you can't execute another command until the first one has fully executed, or if you have something that's going to last a little while, you might want to run things in the background. So a little bit with that. Consequently, we can also use semicolons to separate commands, and we'll do that a little bit later. But just to demonstrate, if we wanted to make an alias where we execute a few commands at the same time, I might type in who am I to find out which user you're logged in as. Put out the date there just because always good to know what date it is, and then whatever's in the current directory. So pop that alias in, we type in welcome, and it'll execute those 3 commands in series. So it's kind of useful to be able to write those 3 commands on the same line, have them executed in series with a single, in this case, single alias, or a single stroke of the enter key. So if we're going to do, so we ran all those in the foreground, and that's the default. Backgrounds, to do that, we have to use the ampersand. So if we did echo hello, which we'll just print the word hello. But we're going to run that in the background. And we're going to sleep 5. And we'll separate that with another ampersand. And we're not using the semicolons here. Don't really need to because of the ampersand. And if we do echo W ORLD. So we're going to do the print hello world to the screen. In this case, we're going to execute these things in the background, which means that they can all execute while we wait. So in this case, they happen to happen pretty quick. The sleep 5 takes a little bit longer, but finishes up. And you can see that as the processes execute, they give us a process ID with them, as well as telling us when they're completed. So that's kind of handy. Consequently, we can also run things in the background. So the sleep command just pauses the screen, or pauses a pause, in this case for 1,000 seconds, which is much longer than we need. But if we're going to demonstrate the command, the jobs command, nice to have a process that's running there in the background so that we can see, using the jobs command, that it's there. Consequently, we can also move processes from the foreground to the background, vice versa. And we'll look at that in just a minute.